Welcome to the Intern Whisperer, the show all about the future of work and innovation. And today's Intern Whisperer tip of the week is, remember that when the holidays come up, you need to remind your interns that there will be no meetings. That doesn't seem like that should be that hard to communicate, but it is apparently. So you have to make sure that you communicate with your interns what the expectations are for the holidays, when they're supposed to come back and when they actually leave, and what is their workload. So today's guests for this week's show are Kent Gustafson. I'm messing up your last name. Go ahead and teach me, Kent.
That was pretty good. Do you want to try again?
Yeah, Gustafson? No, Gustafson.
That was closer. That's closer. Try one more time. Let's see if it keeps
Gustafson.
That's pretty close. Yeah.
Okay,
I say
don't
Gustafson,
make me.
But
Gustafson.
no, it's good.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm going to say it over again. So today's guest is Kent Gustafson and Randy Baker. They are with Thought Leader Path. I'm not sure why that is showing up weird in our show notes, but nonetheless it is. So our show is all about education, innovation, and the future of industries and jobs. So guys, 5 words that describe you and why. Randy, you go first.
Well, I'm going to start off with a little complaint. I mean, Kent got his name in there 4 times. I got mine once. I mean,
but the
the
editors might cut all that out. But now I feel like the editors have to put it back in because you just talked about it.
No, they're going to leave it. This is good dialogue.
Leave that in. So it was a really good question. It's always a difficult question. And
Randy Baker, Randy Baker, Randy Baker, Randy Baker, Randy Baker.
That's more than 5 words. I'm only allowed 5 words. If you ask my wife, she would use words like smart, good looking, adventurous, brave. I can't think of a
chivalrous.
I would say funny.
But I think if I'm limited to 5 words, I have 5, and that is not the smartest person around. Because if I was the smartest person around, I'm in the wrong place. I like to learn from people that are smarter than me. So I'm inquisitive, curious. I like to speak to smart people.
Who doesn't? Yeah. My mom chose my dad because he was super smart, and she always likes being around smart people. I talk about her like she's still around. She's not. But I think that was significant because, being around people that are smart and also that have more money than you allows you to learn from them always.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I can't learn much from somebody that doesn't know as much as me. And I like to learn continually. It's a lifetime thing.
I'm going to challenge that, Randy. So a 3-year-old definitely doesn't know as much as you, right? Mm-hmm. But I bet you learn quite a bit from a 3-year-old just from observation.
I learn what I have already forgotten from a 3-year-old.
Yeah. It reminds you, right?
There is nothing that a 3-year-old does that I haven't already done. So
I think that it also teaches us patience more than anything if we
absolutely
are not patient.
Yeah.
How about you, Kent? What are your 5 words?
My 5 words. There are just too many words coursing through my head. I am big and tall.
That was 7 words.
Are you a teacher? Oh, I see that this is a contest now. Okay. How tall are you?
6'7".
Oh my God, that is super tall.
See, I told you. I described myself well.
Yeah. That comes across as sometimes intimidating because I'm 5'2". So I'm going to feel like, oh, I'm a midget next to you. Not really.
No, it's okay. It's okay. In 3-foot tall pools, we're the same height because everybody's on their knees, just kind of swimming around. So
that's true.
Yeah, I tend to divert broad and difficult questions by kind of making light of them. So it's appropriate for me to say I am big and tall.
I think that it shows that you're both very witty also. I'll throw some other words out there for you guys too.
Witty.
Yeah, your guys are teachers. I know that. They're lovers of knowledge, so
Yeah, I think the question that brings up in my mind is, are we teaching anything of value, or are we just expounding on stuff that everybody already knows?
Yeah,
We're going
I
into
had teachers of
philosophy.
both types. I had a
Mhm.
teacher who would teach the wrong things. I would venture to say that doesn't make her a very good teacher.
Mhm, mhm.
So
It teaches you what not to do for sure, and how you want to be different.
it's true.
Yeah, I definitely worked for a couple of those people, and I went, no, this is not the leadership model to follow. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so what job did you want to have when you guys were growing up? Each of you separately, not together. Kent, what did you want to be?
Well, I grew up about a century after Randy, so I'll answer from from a 20th century perspective.
It was only half a century.
That's true.
Unless you watched Highlander, like
Yeah,
you've been around
yeah,
forever.
I couldn't get into that show or that book, but I liked the idea, but couldn't get into it. But I wanted to be something different every week. I think that's never changed, actually. So that's why I am what I am, which is someone who's big and tall.
So I'm curious, 6'7". Do you know how long you were when you were born? Like,
I
you
was
might have
6 feet 5 inches at birth, just
at
very
birth.
skinny.
Wow.
Yeah, I was very long and thin. I came out in a coil.
Oh my God, so funny. Okay, so I've had a couple of guests. They just kept me in stitches the whole time. I'm going to guess it must be that region, because one of them was a Cornell professor. He talked about aquaponics. I had never laughed so hard in my whole life throughout the whole show. So I am looking forward to this. Okay, so what about you, Randy?
So the dinosaurs had
How
died
tall were
out.
you at birth? That was the question.
Oh, that was the question. You know, I forgot to get a measuring stick out to measure myself, so I really don't know. But the dinosaurs had in fact died before I was born, so that was a good start. But I was always struck with the concept of finding something old. So I wanted to be an archaeologist. I can remember when I was 7, I was digging in the backyard for, dinosaur bones and ancient Egyptian artifacts, not realizing that ancient Egyptian artifacts would probably not be found in Melbourne, Australia. But I did it nonetheless. I always had dreams of being Indiana Jones before Indiana Jones was even a thing. So that's how old I am, much older than Raiders of the Lost Ark came along when I was older. But then I discovered that it took a lot of education to become an archaeologist. So I changed my mind and decided I'd do something really easy and become a lawyer. And then I discovered that it takes a lot of reading to become a lawyer. So that didn't really appeal to me. So I took the easy way out and became a business person, studied accounting at college, and spent the last 40 years in business.
Interesting. Accounting. That's my nemesis.
Yeah. A lot of people hate it. I found it really easy. So it really appealed to me because in college, my workload in the first year was pretty heavy. It was like 20 hours a week workload. But second year was 14 hours a week, which left me a lot of time to go surfing and snow skiing and so forth, which is what I really wanted to do. So accounting was the right thing.
Hmm.
So
How
for
about
fun,
you? Did you
up
go for a
marketing and
master's?
psychology. Me, I
I'm
did
sorry.
not do a master's. No.
I was talking right over you. I don't want to do that. So I interrupted you. What were you saying before I so rudely interrupted you?
Nothing important.
Oh,
It
well,
may have been funny, but not important.
okay. So what about you, Kent?
What was the question?
The
We were talking about surfing.
Did you say
Accounting.
something funny?
I don't like accounting.
No, what did you, well, we already did, no, we did do this. What did you want to be when you were growing up? But you answered that question. No, you
I
didn't.
wanted to be a cow. Yeah. You could just moo all day long
No, I don't believe
and,
that.
and drop pies.
So for real, what did you end up doing? What did you
What
want to
did I
be?
do? What did
Yeah.
I want to be? Well, it changed all the time, but I grew up wanting to be an artist, a musician, a poet, all the artsy fartsy things. Both Randy and I are sons of poets, which is funny about us. I ended up getting much more straight-laced as I went along. As it happens, the further you get away from that 3-year-old time that you were talking about, where you actually are an intelligent being and you understand kind of the waves of the universe, the further you get from that, the more you start to think there are boxes and accounting and all that crap.
Mhm.
So then when I got to college, I started being interested in things like biology and other useless sciences and things, until I kind of came to my senses and started, wanting to go back into the weird space of creativity and then business, because business is actually a pretty creative junket, if you'll allow it to be.
All right. So Indiana Jones, I really like that. That was one of my favorite movies also. Well, the first one really. I can't say the others, not so much.
Yeah,
First
Raiders
one.
was good. Temple of
Read the
Lost
last-
is Ken's favorite one, where and the
Last
favorite scene is
Crusade.
where puts the hand in.
Oh, that's true.
Pulls out the.
Oh yeah,
beating
the
heart.
beating heart.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to say that was an iconic scene.
That was
The
good.
heart was beating. Did he ate it, right? Did he
I
eat
don't
it?
know. I don't
No,
think so.
did he eat it? I can't remember. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go look for that.
I mean,
I don't-
my favorite scene was when Indiana Jones was confronted by those two guys wielding swords, and he just pulls out his gun and shoots them. Yeah.
That's hysterical. And snakes. Why snakes?
Yeah, and the poor snakes, right? People are stepping all over those guys. They're just
I don't think
handpicked.
none of those snakes were real. They were not harmed. They were all
No.
Well,
not
I mean,
poisonous.
suspending disbelief. We're in movie space. They're stepping all over those snakes. The poor things. I mean,
But do you
they're
think that
just
it was
trying to-
really that there were really snakes in that room, or they just made it look like there were snakes in the room? You can
It's
do
all in-
anything in
it's
movie.
all
It's
in-
all an illusion.
the whole thing is in Indiana Jones's mind when he's a child.
When he's 7 years old, digging for
That's it.
ancient Egyptian architects in his back garden.
The dinosaur eggs. Yeah.
The whole thing was a figment of his imagination, and we stepped into it.
Pigment of his imagination.
That was good. Yes.
So Kent, where'd you go to school?
I never did.
You did not go to college.
No, but I'm starting to understand why Bob Dylan used to answer completely ridiculous answers to reporters' questions, because I found as I get older that I do the same thing. I went to Middlebury College in Vermont, a lovely place, lots of marble.
Is it a liberal arts school? What kind of I've never heard of that school. I
Uh,
think you're making it up.
It's kind of a middle of the road school, not too liberal, and there are arts, but also sciences. But in the spirit of liberal arts education, it was one of those where you're supposed to get a good, well-rounded education.
Yeah.
For a very big ticket price.
That sounds like my college too. Yeah, pretty
you go?
expensive. Rollins College, it's a little mini Harvard. I went, well, this might be as close to Harvard as I might get. So I went
It's like
there.
a Harvard just shrunk down.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Honestly, I went to Harvard. I went to visit Harvard and I took a tour and I was impressed. I don't know, you guys probably have visited there, but I was impressed by three things. First off, the dining hall was straight out of Harry Potter movie. I went, what
Hmm.
is this? This is like amazing. It just was very iconic looking in that sense. The second thing was that everything underground, there's these giant hallways where you could drive 2 golf carts in opposite directions and still be able to walk. And there was art all the way through, and you went up to, your classrooms, your dorms, the gym, whatever. And I went, this is amazing. And it was
So
all underground.
a total of 4 golf carts.
No, one going, opposite from the other, like, and float like a 2-lane road. But then
Uh-huh.
there was still enough space that you could
Was
walk
there
around it.
was there like a dotted line in the middle, or like
No,
passing regulations?
no. Have you been
No.
there?
Underneath
Have you
in the
taken a
golf cart
tour?
territory?
Have you
No,
taken a tour
no,
of Hartford?
no.
I recommend it. No, it was amazing though. I just went, oh my God, there's this whole underground underneath here.
That's really
Yeah,
cool. I like sort of subterranean catacomb like universities.
it felt that way because the
Mhm.
buildings are super, super old, right? And then you're underneath it and you go, what? I just stepped into a different type of a reality because it was very white. It was very clean. It felt sterile a little bit, but it had all of this cool art and, history up on the walls around it.
So on the outside of the buildings at Middlebury College, if somebody listening to this is from Middlebury, I apologize in advance, but the outside is all marble, the inside is like cement brick, right?
Mm,
That's the funny thing about every college. It's like you except maybe Harvard, but you see things, the marble just, sparkles in the sunshine, and there are mountains in the background and all that stuff. But just roll up at like 3 a.m. on a Saturday, like after a Saturday night party, when it just reeks of substances and things.
uh-huh.
Actually, the best time is 5 or 6 a.m. when all the grounds crews are picking up all the junk that all the drunk kids left behind. That's
Yeah.
when you see the real beauty of liberal arts campuses. That
Yeah.
was jaded. Randy, you got to rescue this interview.
Well, no, I'm staying out of this one.
No, it's okay. It's a meandering trail. We do not have to necessarily go there. It is the same, I think, at most colleges, because I would go talk to the grounds people at Rollins. And I know I'm throwing my colleges here in town where I am. And they would say, are you kidding? Do you know how horrible the students are? They would put out their cigarettes on the wooden benches outside. They would flip things upside down. They would, throw the vending machines down on the ground. There was all kinds of things that are not appropriate probably to discuss on the show, because it's
How
like,
did you survive that place?
I went to school at night. I worked a day job and I went to school at night. I also worked there and I taught at my school. So different experience. And so when I was there, I didn't get to, okay, when I was taking one of my classes, I went in there and there was a girl that came into one of the art classes. That was my electives. I took a lot of art classes. I love them. And she was tan from head to her toes. And I sat there and went, who is tan on the bottom of their feet? Like, how does that even happen? When you have to be really working to get a suntan on the bottom, and her feet weren't dirty. I just went, this is a school for a lot of very privileged people. So I worked a job full time and I went to school full time. So I know what those sacrifices are. So I don't think you can put me in the same place as the rest of the day students. The debauchery of it all is what you're saying. Greek life rules sometimes.
Yeah, actually, and Middlebury didn't have Greek stuff, but it had what they called social houses. It was similar. But
Really?
now I live near Penn State. They certainly have Greek life.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, for real. Well, anyway, did you continue education
nope, that
into
was
a master's? So,
I
but
got a master's, and everybody's been calling me master ever since, which has been great. I shouldn't I mean, you get a master's in this world and people don't get anything from it. Like they don't get to there, if you write a book, you're not really supposed to put the master's degree according to the style sheet. People
Yeah.
don't call you Master Kent. It's kind of funny,
Yeah. With an MBA, that's the only time they actually, or if you have a master's in education or in mental health, anything in the health, they let you add those credentials at the end of your name.
People do, but still on books. If you see MBA on a book, it's because the guy asked for it to be there. It wasn't
Oh
supposed
yeah,
to be
you're
there.
absolutely right. Yeah. You're
So
absolutely.
so I got a master's, got a PhD in classical composition from Stony Brook University on Long Island.
Nice.
Lots of school.
Yeah, I think that, well, I'm all but dissertation for that PhD, and it would be in leadership with a specialization in human resource development. But I think that those that go for the PhD, you're doing it for one of two reasons. Either you love teaching, and that's really the calling, that's the thing, or you want it for the purpose of a book and you're, using it in a different capacity.
I got I got one for a third reason. It's like when you're on a railroad and the train stops at some point. You keep riding until the end of the road, so you can't really go to school past it.
Yeah, you can.
You'd have to like go on another track
Right.
and get another one. I was just like, oh, train stopped. I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It depends on like how many degrees do you want to, tackle and the expense of it all. I don't know. Can you guys go to school for free? Since you work at Penn, do they let you go to school for free and pick up another degree?
I don't work at Penn, but if you do work at state schools, they'll often sponsor kids, particularly like New York State lets kids go to school free if you're under a certain income level and so on, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, they'll let you do it for the 4-year, but not for the anything that's above that, the master's or the PhD. Because here I will tell you, at Rollins College, if you work there for, I think it's a year now, you get vested, you get a total ride, your spouse and your kids. So that's a big incentive. State schools, they'll give you, I think it's 20% off tuition is what they say.
Randy knows Henry Rollins. Do you know Henry Rollins? Randy?
Not the same person that founded the school. I can promise
I went to school with a Henry Rollins. Just reminded me.
And
that metal, isn't he a metal? The metal guy, isn't he?
The metal guy.
Yeah, I have no idea. This must be a musician.
Yeah, I gotta Google. People know Henry Rollins.
Never heard of him.
He's an American singer. Yeah.
What is he? What band? Is he in a band?
He's in the Henry Rollins band.
Okay, never heard of it. You're making this up.
I'm not.
No, you're probably Googling right now. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm sure. But he's not a well-known musician, I'm going to guess.
He is.
Well, he is to people who know him.
He's the guy that's like, he hosted Jackass. He hosted.
Well, that's significant.
He was in Sons of Anarchy. Like,
he's
this like punk singer dude.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you're mentioning things I know, so I just didn't know him. We're not in the same
association.
Movie and probably genre of music, but you're enlightening. Okay, so the TEDx talk, how'd you do that one? What's your topic? Tell us about it. And for realsy.
You should ask Randy about his background.
Oh, but his is going to take a lot longer because we get to talk about all his,
Because I'm older. There's a lot more going on.
Yeah, TEDx. He's got a lot going on.
TEDx. Ooh, doesn't that mean you find them attractive? I think it does. I think it does. We should just jump to that. We gotta just jump to that.
It'd be far more interesting than the TEDx.
He's a married man now. Come on now. I lost you. I hear nothing. You're muted.
He's pointing at me. So for all your listeners who may not be able to watch this, Kent is pointing at me saying it's my turn. I have to talk.
Yeah, and he's
So-
muted himself.
Yeah. So I went to college. Oh, I did. I remember going to Keys College in Cambridge once. It was a Sunday afternoon, and my work
And you surfed a
colleague-
lot.
Keys College in Cambridge.
Yeah, Keys College in Cambridge. My work colleague graduated from there. They had an open day. He asked me if I'd like to come with him. So I went to Keys College once.
Was his name Chris Calhoun?
No, it was not.
Just
It
a lot
was,
of
it was Stuart Carpenter. So there you go. So yeah, I went to college once. I think in Australia I went to college for 4 years, but I can't remember any of it. It doesn't
I'm going
count.
to see if I can actually put Kent on total mute so he can't come back in. So how did you guys meet?
Oh, the same way I met my wife.
It was on a dating site?
No, I offered him a job.
Tinder. Yeah.
And what was the job? Where did he work with you?
So I was working for a small little cryptocurrency place. I was their CFO. I'd been brought in to help them gear up to currency was worth about 400 million. They thought it should be worth a bit more. And they brought me in to help me strategize and build out the financial functions and so forth. And I realized that the CEO, who was a really young guy, needed some help, needed some branding help. So I looked around for a branding expert and somehow managed to find Kent, who appeared one day in my email saying, "Here I am."
Actually, just I what do they call it? It was a hologram that I appeared on your desk.
Yeah, and saying, "Here, me." So we talked, and I said, "Sure, come on board." So he came on board to do branding of the CEO and the company. So that's how we met. That was short-lived engagement, but it was fun.
How long have you guys been working together?
That's a
Half a
good question.
decade.
Yeah, half a decade, I think, somewhere around there.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Is that a thing? I think it's a thing.
I guess so. It is now.
It is, yeah. So yeah, we got back together again to work together. So that engagement finished. I was laid off. Kent was laid off. I guess that was yeah, I don't really understand why Kent was, but I was laid off not long after. So
Everybody was pretty much.
everybody was. The company was resized significantly because the cryptocurrency dropped in value from
Yeah.
$8 all the way down to like 40 cents. So they
Yeah,
couldn't
it was
afford to
hot
pay us
at
anymore.
first.
Yeah. So then I wrote my book. And I thought I'll get Kent to ask Kent if he'd write a thing for the back cover, which he did.
It's called a blurb.
A blurb, yeah. Which he, of course he did. And then I sent him the book so that he could read it after he wrote the blurb.
Actually, you're supposed to say after I blurbed.
After he blurbed. Okay. See, I told you earlier that I was fluent in multiple languages. Apparently I'm not fluent in book. So
I'm fluent in bullshit. So
yeah. So he blurbed all over the back cover of my book. And then we decided, well, let's just talk about life and work and business. And we decided we could combine our humor and our skills and see if we can fill a hole in the marketplace, which is what we did.
I think I said this to you guys when we talked before is it's like talking with my dad, honestly, with both of you. He's an engineer and defense engineer, and they have a very quirky sense of humor, extremely dry, very fast, very witty. And many times I think I'm being funny and apparently I'm not because nobody laughs. And I'm like, okay. It just like flew right on over the airport, you know. But other people will tell me some jokes and I don't know. Is that funny? I don't think so. But I get where you guys are coming from is the point, because I sit here and I feel like it's the same kind of conversations I have with my dad. It goes in all of these crazy directions, and yet, he's very sharp.
Yeah, and somehow we managed to make a business out of it.
So what's your book? What's the name of your book?
Oh, I just happen to have it right here because I didn't know that I was going to mention
yeah.
it, but there it is.
Yeah.
Unleashed,
Unleashed Entrepreneur. Where can people buy it?
Amazon. It's the #1 bestseller on Amazon.
Cool. And what is it about? An
Well,
unleashed entrepreneur.
It was written to help people decide whether they should build a business from scratch or buy an existing business. So it was written for the budding entrepreneur who had already made the decision to go into business by themselves. I'm waving it so that everybody can see it.
Mm-hmm. But not our listeners. They can't see it. So
and it's budding entrepreneurs. So it's like the lady who's saying I like big. How's that go again?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Bassoons.
I like big and I cannot lie. It's for budding entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Bassoons. Yeah. But I got carried away in the writing of the book and put in a few personal stories. So people seem to like those more than the rest of the book.
So did you do both sides of those? Did you buy a business, but then you also started one?
I did both. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did.
He's done 100 different weird business things.
Yes.
I know. That's why all of his side projects would take the remainder of the show, honestly.
Well, I don't have many side projects going right now. I have a company that is a business consulting, an advisory company. I do some executive coaching.
That's 3.
I have an interest in a service company in Houston. And then there's Thought Leader Path.
5.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Well, it is. And then I'm also on the board of our HOA and a couple of other things going.
Okay, volunteering, not a full-time thing, but they expect you give your time, your talent, and your treasure. So do you give all 3?
I have no time and very little talent, and my treasure is safely locked away.
Yeah, but you are serving as a very prominent local
Business person.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say it publicly, but aren't you serving as like a super hyper local politician there?
Yes, in this very local region.
Where are you?
I'm in Austin, Texas.
Oh, wow. Is it cold there right now?
It is for me. It's about 75, 78 degrees.
Oh my God, that's
right
not
now.
cold. That's nice.
It's winter.
I know. Well, it's 75 in Florida. So I'm going, that's not cold.
Yeah,
It's like good weather. That's why we live in these states. When we
I'm looking out my window and it's rather nice looking, so I should really be out there. I'm not. I'm here in my office talking to you.
So I've been sitting here thinking the whole time. So you run an internment facility? An internment camp?
Who?
You teach people how to intern others?
Yes.
Oh, no. I teach people how to be good mentors. Actually, I finished my study, and the validation that working with interns, it does improve skills for the mid to senior level employer, as well as it creates a culture of ideation and also creativity. And they saw better processes too. So I'm going to be publishing my study. I'm pretty excited about it.
Killer. Yeah. Young people and fresh eyes. They're super honest.
Yeah. Well, obviously you see an intern improve in their skills, and it was like crazy off the charts. And it's good data, because I will tell you I had, and thanks for allowing me this little plug also. I was able to get 72 out of 102 students answered my survey, which is ridiculously hard. I think we'll all agree with that. And then, yeah, 30 out of 45 of the employers replied back to my surveys too. And I went, okay, my data is solid. I am really excited about that. So the employer
killer.
side of it is that their mentoring skills improved like, more than 3/4 of a pie chart. It's like almost, yeah, it's definitely more than that.
Did their asshole quotient go down?
Yes, because they had to be more patient.
Good.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they definitely saw improvements in all of those areas. So I'm
The
really
A-
glad about that.
They call it an AQ actually.
An AQ.
Randy's writing a book. It's going to be called AQ.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
That would be a really good title though for a book, right?
How to lower your AQ. Yeah.
Yeah.
How to lower your AQ. I like it.
Yeah, well, you could have a whole
AQ, what
series
it
on
means
that.
and how to lower it.
Yeah, they put Q on the end of anything and all of a sudden it becomes like the new hot thing.
Or on the front of things these days.
It's kind of like, or X, right? You put X like, customer experience or user experience or employee experience. You just put X on the end of it and it's all of a sudden it becomes a thing like Q. So what do you guys think the future of work is going to be like? I'm not gonna, we're just gonna drop an ad somewhere halfway in between. I'm not even gonna worry about it. Like right here, wherever I'm talking about.
You can drop an ad anywhere.
The Intern Whisperer is brought to you by Cat5 Studios, who help you create games and videos for your training and marketing needs that are out of this world. Visit Cat5 Studios for more information to learn how Cat5 Studios can help your business. Thank you, Cat5 Studios.
Yeah. So
What do you
this is
think the future of work is?
This is it right here.
This is
We're
it? I don't think
theoretically-
so.
We're theoretically working right now because we're shilling, we're advertising what we do for a living. So theoretically, this is marketing.
No, 2030.
10 years from now.
2030.
Well,
Oh, see, that was a trick question.
Yeah, it was. I threw that one in late. So I watched this Hulu show and it was all about the future of food, or the food industry. And they talked about how we eat now with, animal protein. It's just not really sustainable and we'll have to get away from that. And everything will be more plant-based foods. And I could not agree more with them about it. But they also talked about what culturally people eat and is acceptable, like bugs. And I'm going, no.
Oh yeah, we talked to a bug entrepreneur
Yeah.
recently. A
Really?
bugpreneur.
Did you guys
me.
taste it?
He's sending us.
He's sending us a
some
sample
gummies.
pack of critters, which is kind of interesting.
Is it
But I-
crickets or what? Meal bugs?
Yeah,
Those look
crickets.
gross.
So-
Grasshoppers.
Hmm.
Actually, 'cause
Oh,
crickets
yeah,
are
not
kosher.
crickets, because crickets, yes,
Crickets
crickets
not
are not
kosher.
kosher.
But grasshoppers are kosher.
Are you Jewish?
No.
So why does that
I like-
matter then?
Do you
He
like
is.
kosher
The
dill
guy
pickles?
that's making it is.
Do you
I-
like kosher dills?
To me, pickles are pickles, so I'm sorry.
Oh man, kosher
I'm
dill
like-
pickles are the best pickles. They are blessed.
They're very garlicky, right?
Yeah. So speaking of what were we talking about before the crickets
Crickets.
and
Meal
Before
I
bugs.
know we were talking about the future of work, and I think crickets.
That's way back.
that's the
Talking
future
about the
of
food
right?
industry. Yeah.
Yeah, the future of work is we'll all be dead and there'll be cockroaches everywhere, and cockroaches eat for a living, right?
Yeah, they do. Did you
Yeah.
know a cockroach
said- You
can
said
live?
20,030, right?
No, 2030. 20,000, no. Yeah, 2030. Did you know a cockroach can live off of the oil in your fingerprint for 3 months?
But see, there won't be any fingerprints because there won't be any humans.
I know, but somebody's still going to be alive. They'll still be eating it. They can eat, if they can live off of the oil in a fingerprint, do you think that they could live off of, the
Yeah,
the
did you
flesh
know that
that's
if
on the body?
You know that if you pull the head off a cockroach, it will die from starvation.
Yeah, so will a chicken, but I've seen chickens live
Well,
without that head.
Will the head die of starvation or will the body?
The body.
So the head will die of
Decapitation.
Yeah.
So it dies 2 deaths. That's really
Mm.
sad.
It's interesting. That's why they still exist.
So only half of the cockroach actually dies of starvation.
Yes.
Mhm,
First,
mhm, mhm.
I don't know how we got there either. Crickets. It's your fault.
Yeah, I don't want
We
to
were
eat
going-
anything
we were
that's a
going
bug.
somewhere important. The future of work 2030. I think this metaverse is bullshit. I hate it. I think the future of work is the same as work has always been. Like when the marketing people would be on the side of the ships in Babylon, like hucking their wares. Like things don't change. Human beings need human beings.
Mhm.
And if we die out, the roaches will feast on us. But humans are humans. So this whole metaverse stuff, like, okay, whatever. It's just the new US mail.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I think the future of work, I think if we want to really get a good vision of it, we just have to look at Australia, who as a country back in the 70s decided that they would become the smart country. And so they shipped most of their manufacturing offshore and only allowed people in who were very well educated. So now there are, things have changed, but now they're a country with a growing population of immigrants who are less well educated and they have no industrial base. So
Why did you leave Australia?
why did I leave? Now you're getting into very personal things. Um,
Okay.
the best of all reasons, a woman.
Okay.
So I was CFO of a small company that started. I was the first employee, and a small little internet-based company which we brought to the US and Wall Street. And while I was here, I met a lady, and I decided to stay. That's
So this is
short
it's
version.
gonna be a really long story, and I gotta go. So I'll talk to you guys later. You keep talking with Randy. I'm out. But
Okay.
thank you.
All right. No mentoring advice from you?
Oh, mentoring advice?
Yeah. Any mentoring advice you want to give us?
Be more like Randy.
That's good advice.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think that's the best advice you could actually
But
give anybody.
have him keep telling the story about that. And I have
We're
to leave,
actually, we hit our 60-minute mark, so we're really doing good.
oh, you mean like
Well, maybe.
uh
I'm not sure. I think it took like 6:10 is like
if
we
you-
went over the notes.
If we cut out half of what Kent was saying, we could probably get it down
then
to
you can finish
50 minutes.
then you
Oh, yeah.
finish
Yeah.
Randy's story. He has amazing insights on the mentorship stuff. Definitely
Okay.
ask him that question. But I have to take off because my dog is needing to be walked.
Well, thanks for being here.
It's been really fun chatting with you. This is the
You're
weirdest.
leaving us to walk your dog. I think that's a very good thing.
No,
Yeah.
I'm gonna walk my dog. You don't have to.
I don't have to walk your dog.
No.
Oh, I can stay here.
You stay here. Thank you. Sorry for being so wacky.
All right.
It's been
See you
fun.
later. So anyway, before you were saying as to how you got here, but I think that Australia is kind of like Switzerland. It's like nobody messes with it. We just leave you alone.
It's a long way away. So if you think back to the Second World War and the Japanese who actually got to Australia,
Really?
well, they were stopped in New Guinea basically, but they had their little midget submarines got into Sydney Harbour. So they tried to actually invade Australia. They would not have succeeded because all that would have happened was they would have landed in the north. Australia would have amassed its armies on the east and southern area, forced the Japanese to travel across the deserts where their supply routes would be vulnerable. And so it would never have worked. It's the same problem that the Germans had when they tried to take Africa. The supply lines became too long. So Australia has some very good natural defences. Its biggest enemy is from within. If they can maintain their democracy, then they'll be fine. But I moved to America and stayed here because, well, I just like moving around. So I spent 5 years in London. I spent some time in Australia. Then it was time to come here. And
Yeah. How long is the flight to Australia? Is it like 18 hours, 20?
You can get a direct flight. It takes about 12 or 14 hours. Or if you go via New Zealand, it's about 16 hours. So for 18 months, roughly, I did the commute between Melbourne and San Francisco every 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh my goodness. That's brutal.
Yeah, that was brutal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was probably only 12 months, not 18 months. So it was not so bad. I was exaggerating.
Wow. So mentoring advice. What mentoring advice, leadership advice would you pass on?
I think the best piece of advice I can give is the advice that I was given by my mentor in my first real job. He took me aside one day, my manager took me aside one day and sat me down and said, you know, Randy, you're really good at what you do. So I'm thinking, this is good.
Which was?
Well, I was an accountant. I was working for KPMG. I progressed through, well, I became a supervisor with KPMG before I actually got my degree finished, which was unheard of. But he sat me down and said, you're really good at what you do, which is great. I'm thinking this is really good. And then he said, the problem is you just don't listen. I said, what do you mean I just don't listen? He said, well, you think you know what it is that I want. So when I ask you for something, you give me what you think I want. Well, you got to stop doing that. You got to start giving me what I ask for. And it was only then that I realized that when people ask us for something, it's not up to us to decide what it is that they want or what they're using it for. Just give them what they ask for. And now the smart managers will go one step further and will say, this is what I want and this is why I need it. And then the smart employee will give them what they ask for and any other information they might need because they now understand what it's used for. So as a mentor, the best advice you can give is to teach your people to listen. They need to listen to their managers, they need to listen to their colleagues, they need to listen to their clients or their employees. They need to learn to listen. And I mean really listen, not interpret what they hear. Listen to the words because words are important. So if you want to be a good mentor, start listening and teach your people to listen.
I agree with you. A lot of people think that they're really good communicators and they'll think that they're good communicators because they're checking the boxes in their head as to what that means. And I think listening is the first thing, and also reading carefully because people skim and that's like really not listening also. What I've learned is when I write, which is another way of communicating, right, is that a person needs to put the who, what, why, where, when, how in whatever they're writing. We'll use the pronouns he, she, whatever, and it could be talking about somebody else that has not been introduced into the topic based on name or title. So listening, I sit here and I think of that as, that's communication. So is reading carefully to see what do they need and want.
Yeah. It's the
And
same
so
thing.
is responding, so that I don't have to go and ask, well, can you explain this? I have to do that so many times with people.
One of the things that I used to do, and I probably still do, but if I was talking to a group of people, maybe I
Mhm.
was giving a speech or doing some training or a group of people, and I was starting to lose them, what I would do is would be walk to the back of the room so that everybody would have to literally turn around, and I would drop
Mhm.
my voice really soft so they would have to listen. And it was amazing how that had an impact on getting my message across, because people started listening.
Mhm.
They weren't just letting the words go past their ears. They had to actually turn around and
Engage more.
listen and engage. So listening is a marvelous skill. If you can get your people to listen, you're right. Engagement is the result.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, yeah.
My dad would do that also, where he would talk. No, he's talking to his 3 children, and he would talk very, very softly. Like we were in trouble. We knew if he's talking like super, super soft. And we would have to like really lean in to understand what it is. But he later told me, I'm a grown person now. He said that he read a book called The Art of Intimidation. And he used that method to manage his people, but he also used that at home to get our attention. And I sit here and I think, no, my dad's awesome. I'm going to give that as the disclaimer. But for real, I think that that was not a good use of communicating, because that was more about power than leadership and collaboration, for sure.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I had a CEO who, he was a big man. He was 6'3", 6'4", and 280 pound. And so he would puff out his chest. He would stand over you. He would speak loudly. He would use his size and his voice to intimidate you.
Gorillas do that.
Gorillas do that. And,
Yeah.
it didn't work on me because I knew what he was doing, but it was interesting to watch him doing the same thing with his new employees. And this was the way he was getting them to do what he wanted them to do. And it surprised me, not really, but it was surprising to find out he wasn't very well respected, and yet he believed he was. So many forms of communication. The best one is, I mean, leaders have to be, they have to be capable of leading. And I know that sounds silly, but
It
leaders have
sounds
to
simple.
lead. Leaders have to lead.
Yeah.
And followers will follow a leader if he's confident and fair and just and very clear in where they're going. It's a lot of factors come into good leadership, and very few people have them all. But it's confidence that's quiet. It's not confidence from your size or from how loud you can be. It's just,
It's if you're kind and you show you care.
yeah.
It's about establishing trust.
It's establishing trust. If people trust you, they will follow you anyway.
Yeah.
And they will do anything for you. So it's establishing that trust, and it's ensuring you never betray that trust, which means, there's a lot of forgiveness involved in good leadership.
Yep. I totally agree. Totally. That's why it kind of goes back to the 3-year-old story one more time. Is, to get a 3-year-old to like you, you have to be really genuine. And I think that people can tell if somebody's being genuine. So that's where they begin to trust.
Yeah, it's not blind trust. It's not.
It's earned.
It's earned. Yeah,
Mhm.
and so you can be thrust into a position of leadership simply because of the title that gets put on top of your head, but it doesn't mean that you're a leader.
Mhm.
I've seen over my career many people who were very junior in the organization, but people trusted them and followed them. It's quite remarkable. So some people just have it. Some people have to learn it. Some folks, unfortunately, never learn it. And
It is true.
but we all have to deal with whatever we have to deal with. And just because you don't trust or don't respect the leader doesn't mean that you can't still have a good environment to work in. You have choice. And we all have choice. In everything we do, we have choice.
Yes.
It's very sad to me when we discover people who say, I'm trapped, I can't get out, I'm stuck. No, that's not true. You have a choice.
Yeah,
It
everything, there's
may
always
not be
a choice.
comfortable. Mhm.
And you may not like having to make the choice, but you do have the choice.
Yeah. And the outcome of making that choice is not necessarily comfortable, but
Mhm.
you still have to do it.
Mhm. Yep. So I'm curious, what is Yazoo on your shirt?
Oh, so my daughter-in-law went to a bachelorette party in Nashville this weekend, and she brought this back. So Yazoo is apparently a brewery in Nashville since 2003, and she figured she'd bring me back a Yazoo t-shirt.
Okay, that's fun.
Yeah.
Well, how can our listeners contact you? And just another little shout out for your book.
Okay, so you can find my book on Amazon.com.
Tell us the name one more time.
It is Unleash Your Inner Entrepreneur. Just do a search for that. I think there's 2 with that title. So I'm one of
Look
them.
for the Randy Baker
The
version.
Randy Baker version. You can contact Kent or myself by, you can find us on LinkedIn. We're all over LinkedIn. We're all over Facebook. We're all over all of the podcasts that we've done, including this one.
Yes.
Or you can email me at randy@thoughtleaderpath.com, or you can surprise Kent and email him at kent@thoughtleaderpath.com. And we'd like to talk to anybody that wants to make their business bigger, better, bolder, brighter.
Well, that is super good. I want to thank you for being a guest on the show.
Well, I'm sorry it was so meandering because.
Oh, no, this was a hoot and a half. This is perfect. It is so fun.
We tend to go off the track a little bit from time to time, and it's amazing how Kent and I actually do get serious occasionally, but very rarely.
That's good. Well, I have to thank my people, so stay with me for a minute here. So I want to thank our sponsor, Cat 5 Studios, and our production team, Becca Coffey, associate producer intern, video and audio editing, Steve Neese, Ayana Sanders, our interns, Nick Morales and Alex Teal, music by Dave Francis, Sophie Lloyd, Charles Fleming, and Elijah Sutton, and our sound effects, Matt Miller, Miguel Centra, and Dave Francis. Be sure to visit Employers for Change at C.tech to learn how you can create real diversity and inclusion culture while skilling your people for the future. Thank you for supporting the Intern Whisperer by subscribing to our show on Podbean or your favorite podcast channel. So thank you. We'll say thanks to Kent, even though he bailed on us using that dog story. Come on.
Yeah, Sparky. That's the name of his dog.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but Kent was also away for a few days, so I think Sparky missed him, or he missed Sparky. So
it's okay.
They got to spend some time together.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks to all of our listeners. So